Hello, Awifians. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all, wherever you may be in the world. How are you doing? I hope you're safe. I hope all is well for you. Please come join me. I have an amazing soul with me today, all the way from Nigeria. So please take your time, grab a cup of coffee, tea, or whatever is appropriate for this time of the day. Come join us as we talk about visibility during COVID-19. How are things working for you? How is the situation in your country as we speak? Come join us. Give us a few minutes. Share this live stream with your family and friends and come join us. Hello, Abisade. How are you?
Hello, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. And yourself, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well, thank you. You know, I was tempted to ask you how was your flight?
No flights sometimes.
Nope. So, how is the situation in Nigeria right now?
So it's been pretty much the same as in most places in the world. We're on lockdown and have been for the past around 4 weeks. And so things are slow. People are working from home. Just the way in which we work is changing daily. So, for example, next week, the full lockdown mode is going to be removed in many states, but there will still be an emphasis on social distancing and encouraging people to work from home as much as possible. So things are still very much, we're still very much in the peak of things, or at the peak of things, and we're just hoping to see a time when all of this comes to an end.
Yeah. Well, I'm really praying that this doesn't hit Africa more than it's already been so far. I think we've had our share of adversities, and we don't need one. We don't need it anymore. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us the situation in Nigeria. And before we start, I just want to let you know that I'm so proud of the accomplishments that you've done so far. I had the pleasure of meeting you in person, seeing you in person, talking with you, and I did not know this was going on behind the scenes. And boom, and I was like, "What? Congratulations, girl! You did it!"
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So before we continue, I would like to share this quote with you, and let me know if it resonates with you. After all, a crisis doesn't make a person; it reveals what a person is made of. Does this resonate with you?
Absolutely, 100%.
Great.
100%. It's interesting because one of my sort of key, I guess, ethoses as a business person and as an individual is agility and flexibility. You have to be adaptable because in business you just don't know what's going to get thrown at you. Nobody had, nobody had included a pandemic such as COVID in their business plan going into 2020. So absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So, as a founder of Heritage Apparel, I'll let you introduce yourself to the world. Who are you and what are your objectives?
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Abisade Adenubi. I am a lawyer by training, but I'm now what I like to call an industrialist. So I've recently set up a garment factory called Heritage Apparels in Nigeria. And basically, what we do is we do mass production of basic utility apparel, like uniforms for schools, uniforms for security businesses, basically any kind of garments or apparel that you need in high volumes that we currently go abroad to source because of the numbers. We also do production for fashion designers who want to scale up into retail from sort of made to measure, but don't have the capacity in house to do so.
So, you are the China of Africa.
Basically.
Hey, that's my girl. Please grab it. Go for it.
Definitely.
Yes, we need this. We need this in Africa as much as we need it from any other country. But it's time for Africa to start being sustainable to itself and also to use the skills that it's got. So thank you so much for taking the lead in this. I know Nigeria has the capacity. I studied in Nigeria. I studied in Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. I have cousins from Nigeria. I've been to Lagos, Abuja. So I know the strength in that country. And I really pray that many Nigerians will come up in a positive way because we do not see Nigerians in the positive light. I hope that they will come out in a positive way as you are doing it so that the world can really enjoy the gift of that country. It's really a blessing to have that country, but we have to sell it differently, market ourselves differently so the world can really profit from Nigeria. So, being proud of you as your big sister and hoping that you go as far as possible, please share with us. Your business is really on time. Why did you decide to create Heritage Apparels?
Wow. I always love answering this question because it takes me way back to the beginning and the why of the business. So, like I said earlier, I'm a lawyer by background. And whilst I was working as a lawyer in London, in 2010, I set up a fashion business, just kind of out of interest. I'd always loved fashion. So I set it up with a business partner. She was a fashion designer, and I was basically going to be the business person in the business. So we set this business up to basically work on ladies' wear. Because my idea at the time was that, especially in the city of London where I was working, work clothes were just very drab, very like, just very plain. Everything was black or gray or navy.
Yes.
And I really wanted to sort of, infuse some culture, infuse some personality, some color and oomph into workwear while still remaining sort of, professionally appropriate. So that was the main ethos of the brand at the time. And so we did our production in London, we did production in Thailand, and also in India as well. And it was one day, I think in 2015, I was on a flight to Bangkok to meet with my production team. And London to Bangkok is a 13-hour flight. And I thought, this is insane. I shouldn't have to travel 13 hours just to meet with my production team. There must be a better way. So I began to research and think about, where else I could do production. And of course, being Nigerian, I thought, there are tailors all over the place in Nigeria. Let me try and see who I can work with. So I began to do research, but didn't really find any production house that I could work with that was producing apparel to the same standards that I had become accustomed to doing production abroad. So that was when the idea to set up my own production outfit came about. And it was mainly, actually purely to solve my own production problem. So the idea was to have a small production unit that would do production for my fashion brand. But God would have it, the production factory that I ended up pretty much stumbling upon, which is where we occupy today, had massive capacity. And so I thought, wow, this is incredible. In addition to solving my own problem, I could also help other designers solve their own problem of production. And I could also do mass production as well to help people not have to go to China, not have to go to Thailand or India like I had to, but to have a production hub here in Nigeria that would produce apparel to global standards.
And let's be perfectly clear, it's not that people do not have to go to those places. You're just providing options that you thought would suit other people like it suited you. So it's just solving a pain point problem that you had. So thank you so much. But that's huge. As young as you are, that's a huge investment to do. It's time consuming. You have to be present. You have to give a lot of yourself. You have to financially, you have to really be solid. And also, let's also be perfectly honest. Africa doesn't really give women of this caliber the space to come up with such ideas and be the owner of that company. Most companies like this are owned by men. So, what are some of the struggles that you faced during the creation of this company?
I think my number one struggle was quite unique to my own situation in the sense that, as I sort of alluded to earlier, I had just literally stumbled upon this factory that we're now in, right? So as I was researching and thinking about moving my production to Nigeria, I began to think about my raw materials because at the time I was getting fabric from London, from Italy, and from Europe generally where I was based. And I thought if I'm going to start doing production in Nigeria, the supply chain would just be too awkward and too long for me and quite inefficient for me to be importing fabric from Europe into Nigeria, produce here, and then export the finished goods back to Europe where I was living for sale. So I began to think about, options for fabric on the African continent. So I traveled to Ghana, to Ivory Coast, to the Gambia, basically looking for researching into African textiles. And as
Yeah.
part of that research, I was basically in this area in Ogun State in Nigeria, where they're known for making Adire fabrics. Adire is like a really unique tie and dye kind of fabric. And it was on the way to look for that fabric in the market that I stumbled upon the factory. And the factory that I'm in now is owned by the ex-president of Nigeria, President Olusegun Obasanjo. And so my number one unique struggle in setting up Heritage Apparel was to try to convince him why he should let me take over his factory. And that took a whole long process because, as you can imagine, somebody of his caliber would be
Yes.
approached almost daily by people with some kind of proposal or the other. So one of my unique challenges was to try to convince him why is my own proposal different? Why should because basically it was already set up as a factory. There were about 66 machines in here. The space here is quite is quite significant, and so the challenge was why should I hand over to you something that I had a vision for and something that
Yeah.
that I built. And so I had to go through the process of, creating a business plan, showing him the financial projections, and basically getting him to believe in the vision and in the dream that I had. So that was the number one challenge. And that took about 2 years. It took about 24 months from when, actually, no. So I first spotted this place by accident, as I said, in December 2014. And I only took possession because again, so okay, I've only talked about one part because convincing him, getting access to him
Yeah.
was number one challenge. You don't just bump into the ex-president of your country on the street.
No, 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 you don't just. And I'm like, what the heck? She did it.
So, that in itself was a whole long story. And that actually happened in Geneva, literally, just by
Accident, yeah.
not even accident. It was just all so carefully orchestrated that it's just so mind blowing. So I had left the UK and moved to Geneva, and I was working in the African Progress panel, and he was a panel member, and he came into the office, and boom, I met him, and I said, look, here's what I want to do. So that was the challenge, basically, getting in contact with Obasanjo, and also, selling this idea to him, which he's now very interested in, by the way. He's very passionate about it, and very proud of the work that we've done so far.
We love our Geneva because the connections that happens here, just like that. It's like this small boiling point,
Yeah,
expensive place. You just meet people at their best.
anyone,
It's a great place. It's a great place.
anyone in Geneva, it's awesome.
Yeah. I hope you're coming back soon.
Yes, once we can fly again.
So let me just take a minute to share with our viewers. We had a comment from Gladys saying, hi, ladies. Hi, 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 Gladys. Thanks for being with us. Please comment, share. Let's just try and see if we can have access to your page and see your latest video. Let's see if I can share my screen.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Let's go here. Here.
Technology is awesome.
Apparels is a garment factory located in Abeokuta, Ogun State. We generally produce basic utility apparel such as uniforms for schools, uniforms for security businesses, uniforms for various industries, and so on. We also do production for fashion businesses who want to scale up into retail but don't have the in-house capacity to do so. However, since the outbreak of coronavirus, we have pivoted and are now focusing all our attention on the production of essential medical outfits to help flatten the curve in terms of the spread of COVID-19. We've been working tirelessly to produce thousands of high quality, reusable face masks that help prevent the spread of the virus. The health and safety and working conditions of our staff is of paramount importance to us. And so we're ensuring that everybody who works here at Heritage Apparels follows the safety guidelines as recommended by the World Health Organization and the NCDC in Nigeria. At the moment, we are housing all our employees to ensure that they have limited contact with the outside world and thus reduced risk of infection. We urge everyone to continue to practice social distancing and maintain proper hygiene routines. Together, we will beat this pandemic. Stay home, stay safe, stay alive.
There we go. I love it. I could watch this for hours. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you, little sister. I'm so proud of you. Well done.
No, thank you so much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. So your business, it's really on time. Really on time. How do you go about finding the ideas when dreams are now being shattered? You know, how do you survive? How do you hope when you wake up in the morning? What's your hope? What are the opportunities that you see right now in these shattered dreams?
Right. Wow. So, bless you.
Thank you.
When COVID-19 first broke, as a growing business myself, we launched the factory officially in January of this year. So we're still very much in the growth phase. And the last thing, bless you, and the last thing that you include, in your mind, or that even comes to mind when you're preparing a business plan, is a pandemic. You don't really foresee something of this nature. And, really in our lifetime, we haven't seen something of this magnitude, something that has literally kept everybody at home almost pretty much globally for at least 4 weeks and longer in some cases. It's a really, really unique situation that we have not experienced before. And so my initial reaction, when of course there was the lockdown regulation was put in place in Nigeria where we operate, was right, okay, we can't operate, so what can I do in this time? How can I best use this time? And so what I began to do, so of course I had to send my staff home because, we couldn't, really work. So sent my staff home, and I basically started focusing on a lot of the operational back end type of process driven things, because it's a very process driven business, manufacturing, that you don't ordinarily get the time to focus on when things are busy and you're running around trying to fulfill orders. So I began to do that, and I was actually enjoying doing that. Just taking the time to strategize and think about how I would want to place my business post COVID. And then we began to get phone calls. Or can you do face masks for us? And then of course, and then so one of our very first contracts was for the Ogun State government, which is the state government in Nigeria. And so because we were doing work for them, we have a permit to move around because we're now sort of classed as essential services. And so my staff came back to work, and as you saw in the video, we had to house them because obviously they can't commute because of the lockdown. And so it was just. So for me, as I said earlier, adaptability is so important, and just really watching the situation daily, thinking about how my business can still A, survive, and B, thrive if possible in spite of the situation. So that's kind of what I've focused on during this time. First and foremost, keeping my own personal mind and body whole, because I feel like as the leader of the organization, if I allow myself to be negatively impacted by all that's going on around, then there's no real sort of hope for the organization. So that has been number one priority, keeping my mind, sort of safe and sane, and also just allowing myself to really focus daily on opportunities, because the position and the situation is changing rapidly. What people need is changing every day as well. So just really staying alive to all of those issues. And keeping my finger on the pulse in terms of how we can ride this wave and how we can come out of it a better organization.
Let's be perfectly honest. This is bravery at its best. You housing all of your, I mean, where did you get such courage to house them? I know you wanted to protect them and to get business, keep business as usual, but this is not common in Africa that you house all your employees. Where did you get the courage from?
So to be clear, not in my house. I just had to
I know, I
accommodate.
know. I mean, you have facility. I understand that. Yes.
Right. So I think again, it was just trying different things. So the very first day when I realized that we had this order that we had to fulfill, called off. I have 40 employees, by the way, most of whom are machinists, and so called everybody back. And what we tried to do on day one was to pick everybody up from their location, right? Because in my mind, we're in Abeokuta, not a huge city. We could do that. That didn't work. It took about 3 hours to get everybody from their different locations because I didn't fully realize just how spread out people were across the city. So that didn't work because from an efficiency perspective, you don't want to spend 3 hours in the morning getting your stuff and then 3 hours dropping them off at home in the evening. So that was the only option really, to have them all in one place. Either that or we didn't do business. So I began to look around, and I had help doing this in terms of where can we locate our people that is relatively close to the factory. We can get them here. So we had to get involved in this whole logistical business that is not our core business of getting accommodation for almost 30 people. And of course, you can't accommodate people and not feed them, right? So that became another consideration as well. How to feed everyone, how to get everyone from the shared accommodation to the factory, which was so we had to get a bus that would that would bring them, and it was a whole sort of different chain.
Yeah,
exactly. It was a whole setup. But for me, one of the things, and of course, it's been a significant additional cost for the business. But again, it's either you bear the extra cost and stay in business and continue to produce and to work and to earn, or you stay at home and do nothing. So I chose to do that. And also, the other thing to mention as well is it's a difficult time for everyone. And so for me, even though it's more expensive, it's also a thing of joy and gratitude to be able to, have. So the caterer who is providing us with food, she has a job, she can earn in these difficult times. Bus driver who's picking everybody up from the guest house, he can also earn because he gets to work. The guest house that would ordinarily have been empty in this time, they get to have people stay, they get to earn. And if you look at the ripple effect of people earning, able to support their families through this difficult time, I mean, that gives me satisfaction.
exactly. And also, it's a marketing tip for you. It's a marketing strategy that you did not even look into. Investing in people directly rather than having ads. You're getting to the people directly without going through another channel. So well done, well done.
Thank you.
But what do you really see the opportunities right now as we speak?
For sure, for sure. In fact, one of the things that I have spent time thinking about during this time, is the opportunity for Africa, especially, and especially in my sector. I think that the fashion and textile and apparel value chain or supply chain has been really, really badly hit in all of this. I think that it's become very apparent that we are so over dependent and over reliant for our raw materials and inputs and even finished goods as well on countries like China, other countries in Asia, and other continents generally. And so I think that it's a real wake up call for us to begin to hone in our comparative advantage. What do we have on the continents that we can work with? And I think that it's no longer acceptable for us to be so dependent on other countries for basic things. There's a joke in it's not really a joke, a sort of anecdote in Nigeria that we even import toothpick, like just little toothpick. you know. So those that needs to change in the sense that we need to begin to produce at a capacity that that can sustain us as countries and as a continent as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so the big opportunity being to really industrialize as a continent.
Yeah, yeah, and we have the capacity for it. So it's just so what's lacking? Is it the technology? Is it the knowledge, the skills? What's lacking, in your opinion?
Right. For me, I don't think that we lack the skills. So of course we can always upskill ourselves, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel, as they say. We can learn from countries that are ahead in terms of technological advancement. But I think that and we've flocked this horse over the past couple of decades in terms of the infrastructure gap that Africa has. And so, but that's a key issue. We can't run away from it. I
Yeah.
have I have the advantage of being in a location and on the premises where electricity is not a problem for my business because we have power supply here. But for many manufacturing businesses, that is the number one issue, because if you're having to rely on generators and alternative sources of power and energy, your costs go through the roof.
Yeah.
So I think that when we begin to look at these about look into creating an enabling environment for industries like mine to thrive, people always talk about access to finance as being one of the key challenges. But I would disagree sometimes, because I think that, if you have an enabling environment, broadly speaking, of course, which access to finance is part of that enabling environment, but really having the infrastructure, especially for industrial businesses, is super, super key. So, for example, even now in these COVID times, I've had requests to produce masks and other medical garments for organizations in like Senegal, Cameroon, and Ivory Coast, and just beginning to look at the shipping costs to get, or like the delivery costs to deliver goods from Nigeria to these other countries also in West Africa is astonishing. The costs are just so prohibitive, and so those sorts of things really discourage trade amongst the countries. And I know that we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement has recently been ratified. So to begin to really take advantage of what that agreement is designed to do, which is to remove trade barriers between the countries that are party to it, and
Yeah.
to really increase trade flows as well. So now is the time to really begin to do that, because one country may not have all the raw materials, or may not sort of have all the sort of parts of the supply chain for various industries. But if we aggregate ourselves as a continent, we can definitely begin to see movement.
Yeah, yeah, huge opportunities, huge opportunities. You just mentioned now shipping to from one country to the other is a problem. So I see opportunities there, but it requires lots of finance. Talking about your business and accessing finance, are you the sole owner of your company? Are you looking for investors to grow bigger? What is your plan?
Right. So at the moment, I'm the full owner of the company, and I have self-funded the business from day one up until now. It's been a huge challenge. It's been a
I
huge
can imagine.
expense, as you can imagine. And I'll just share one of those areas with you. So one of the key things for me was to create a company, to create a garment factory that produces apparel to international standards. And to do that, you have to have internationally trained staff, right?
Yes,
So one of
yes.
the huge investments that I chose to make was not to kind of work with existing tailors, because I think that tailors who have not been properly trained pick up bad habits, and it's much more difficult to unlearn those bad habits than to learn new ones from scratch.
I
So what I
learned
did,
the hard way, like with golf, if you pick up the wrong the bad swing, correcting that
right,
will cost you a fortune. Yeah.
so difficult. And so what I did was I basically got some master trainers from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has some of the world's best garment factories on many across many different sort of metrics. So I got some trainers to come from Sri Lanka, and they spent 6 months with us in Nigeria. Yeah, basically training my staff from scratch. So I
Six
didn't get tailors
months.
6 months from June until December last year. So I didn't get existing tailors. I just got young people from the local area that were willing to work and ready to learn, and we trained them from scratch. So as you can imagine, that was an enormous, enormous expense. But it was but so far it's been so worth it for so many different reasons. But not least because I have the at least the basic level of skill that I want to work with. Of course, training is going to be ongoing. So in terms of investment and in terms of partnering with other organizations, we're definitely open to having those discussions because the vision is huge. Um, one person can't do it on their own. So definitely open to having discussions with people who have an interest in reigniting the apparel and textile sector in Africa.
Yeah, yeah. I really wanted to touch on that point because I see that as an opportunity for you and also for other Africans or diaspora who are willing to invest in businesses back home and to educate the young people, create jobs. So we are going to keep this door open for investors, and then we
Yeah,
can take it from there. But
yeah.
as we speak, you're now producing mask. Tell us about the struggles that you have, who you've supplied your masks to, and what's the cost per mask
Right. So the struggles have been access to materials, right?
material.
Yes, in the beginning, because the model that our business operates under is we basically produce to order, so it's contract manufacturing for the most
Yeah,
part. So for example, we produced the runners' vests for the Lagos Marathon in February, where we produced 15,000 vests for the marathon runners. Again, that is contract manufacturing. People come to you with a contract, they pay you, you order the fabric, and you produce. So
yeah,
because of our business model, we don't really hold stock,
yes,
um, on the premises. And so with that model, when you're hit with something like a pandemic and that you've not prepared for, you don't have
yeah,
materials,
yeah,
right? So getting materials in this sort of precarious times has been a challenge. However, because like I said, we are providing essential services, we have a permit to move around. It's been okay, but even so, the suppliers are on lockdown. So
yes,
even if you are able to move around, your suppliers are also on lockdown, and so just getting access to that has been a challenge. But again, which is why I guess relationships are very important in business. We've been able to leverage on relationships with our suppliers to still get materials in this time. So yes, we're producing face masks. We're producing scrubs, like regular medical scrubs as well, for medical professionals and even sort of cleaning professionals in the medical setting. We're also producing things like bed linen for hospital beds as well. In terms of who we've supplied so far, so we've done some production for hospitals. We've done production for, like I said, the Ogun State government,
yeah,
and for individual corporations as well. Because now that we're sort of in a transition period, coming out of the strict lockdown phase, it is now compulsory in many Nigerian states, for people to wear masks if they're going to be in public. And so there's now an increase in request for mask production from corporate organizations who want to keep their people and visitors safe as they begin to open up again.
yeah. So, what is the cost per mask?
Yes, the cost per mask is about $1 for one mask. Our typical minimum order quantity is 1,000 pieces, being a factory, but we're making some exceptions on that for essential service providers like medical professionals. So, for example, we supplied a small hospital the other day with 500 masks again, and they were so grateful, and it was paid for. So we had somebody actually order 500 masks for us as a donation to the hospital. And when we delivered it, they were so grateful because they were just in such dire need of the protection.
Yeah. So, anyone watching this, please, you can donate. And on behalf of AWIF, we're going to, can you donate 200 pieces?
Sure.
So I will take 200 pieces. And I call upon all of you watching Diaspora, dig deep. Dig deep. You can add on to my amount, however it's possible for you, but please, let's not leave that continent die. We don't need this. So I'll go for 200 pieces. And how does the transaction happen? For example, if we are donating now, are you putting our logo on it so they know who donated? And how does payment happen? Do you accept payment online? How does this happen?
Right. So in terms of the logos, yes, we're able to put logos as well for companies, just so that just to kind of mark where it's come from.
Yeah.
In terms of payment, we can receive payment in different ways, via PayPal, via international transactions. I have a UK account. I have a number of different foreign accounts, so I can arrange that, individually once I know what sort of currency is required.
Okay. So let me know for our part where we have to pay you. Please let have our logos on it. Donate and let us know where you've donated so we can justify
Sure,
your expense.
sure.
And please, if you're watching this live stream, share it out and donate $1 through Awif or directly to her. Whatever it may be, just let us know why you're, I mean, not why you're donating, just donate, but just let us know that it's through this live stream that you were able to get the message and donate. Because we want to be like a harbor. We donate so other people can also see that things are happening and to encourage you. And you do not have to take 200 pieces. One piece is enough. Let's just start with one. Okay? So let's not sit here and wait for others to come and help us.
And just to add to that, like even if you don't have an organization in mind that you want to donate to, so we can sort of run a poll on our social media pages and invite people to nominate organizations, sort of stating why that organization is sort of most in need of the masks. And of course, we'll let which organization it has been and how many we've donated to them.
Perfect. We have to be transparent. This is one of the things that's killing Africa. Transparency. We are not transparent at all. And this has to really stop. So we take the lead. Thank you so much, Winnie. We take the lead, 200 pieces. And if anybody would like to donate through Awif, that's fine. If you would like to donate directly, that's fine. Let me just see here. We have another. Well done. Thank you very much. And let me just put your Facebook page where I showed the video before, but I have your Facebook page as well. They can contact you directly through this Facebook page.
Correct.
You can contact us, Awif, whichever way works for you, but please do something. We cannot sit here and wait for others to help us. It's time we show up. Seriously. So as we move on with this discussion, passing on the donation, and we'll see how it goes. Anyone willing to invest in Africa, this is a good business to invest in. I know her. I'll get her for you. No, I know her. It's like I've lived with her. She's like a junior sister. So please, no fear. If you would like to talk business, contact me and we can talk about that. So the next decade will be digitalized. As a young entrepreneur, how do you intend to use digitalization to promote your business?
Massively. I think that one of the things that COVID-19 has taught us, especially in this lockdown period, is that we can no longer make digitization an option. It has to become an integral part of the work that you do. And I'll give you an example, Primark. Most people know Primark. Huge fashion retailer, right? They don't have a website. Well, they don't have an e-commerce website where you can buy from. So their business model was to sell only in stores. And so, of course, yes. And so, and the UK, for example, I think has about 41% of their sales revenue globally. And of course, when stores have to shut down in the UK, this is 650 million pounds a month of revenue.
That hurts.
Because they have no online presence from which they could sell. And so, that's a huge example or lesson to everyone that it's no longer an option, right? And so for us, ours will be twofold. One is from the back end. So technology is really going to help us scale our business quite rapidly because there's so many new, sort of machines, so many new things that we can use in the factory that would help to make us a lot more efficient. And so we're already looking into those options at the moment. once we can travel again, I will most likely go on a sort of learning trip to Sri Lanka, most likely to really see how they've managed to use technology and digitization to move their to move their factory businesses forward in such a huge way. That's one.
Yeah.
Secondly, on the sort of client facing perspective, I think that especially in my industry, COVID-19 is really changing, or has really changed how we're going to be doing business going forward. So, for example, um, even like trying on clothes, for example, like I think we've become so there's now there's a heightened sense of hygiene these days with COVID. And so the way that we've previously gone into stores and tried on the same top or the same dress that 500 people before you have tried on without even thinking about it. I think
Yeah.
that the way consumers even interact with retail, with fashion, with clothes is really going to change. And
Yes.
so, so there's talk now about really beginning to increase sort of digital trying on of clothes, or sort of how to sort of digital fitting, how to kind of see digitally how things will fit you without having to actually put the garment on. So there's a lot of shifts that's happening in the industry, or even sort of in various industries globally. So for us, I see it happening sort of on the front end and the back end in various ways.
Great, great. We just had comments and they were asking for the links. Lillian, could you also share the link in the comments, which I have done?
Thank
So
you.
people that can directly click on the link rather than just seeing the link on the screen, now they can directly click on the link and then go to your page.
Okay.
So that is done. And Modi says, thank you. You're welcome. So they have the link directly. Just be careful. Use this link and no other link, because there are other the same with the same name but not the same subject. So use this link. If you have any problem, please talk to me in person or send me a message and I will reply. So, what do you think African women and why do you think African women are not financially free? We have the skills, we have the savoir faire, we have. Why are we still lacking behind?
Hmm. I think that's changing. So as I've literally only been back in Nigeria for about approaching 18 months now, actually, and so beginning to see things sort of on the ground, so to speak. I think that things are changing a lot. A lot of African women, I can speak especially for Nigeria, which is where I'm based, are becoming increasingly empowered in different spheres. So people, so women are rising up to positions of power and authority in organizations. Having said that, we still have a lot of women, but not just women, but we still have a lot of women in sort of rural areas, for example, who are not empowered, so to speak, to be economically independent. And which is why one of my goals, so for example, in my business, we have, I think it's 75% of our staff are actually women. And it's a real key, and that wasn't even deliberate necessarily. Of course, I do have as part of our business ethos, the empowerment of women. But it's been so key for me to create an atmosphere and an environment where women can thrive and learn and become economically independent in this company. So to answer the question more directly, I think that it's not for a lack of skill. It's not for a lack of of aptitude.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's the opportunity, and
Yeah.
which is why now we're seeing a lot of companies even making it a key part of their business ethos to empower women. And I think that sometimes we throw around all these phrases, women empowerment. What does that actually mean on a day-to-day basis? For me, it means creating an atmosphere where women can thrive in the workplace. So, for example, when I was interviewing people to join the company, I had a couple of married women with children who came to be interviewed, and they were really frightened. They thought that they were not going to be hired because they were married and because they had children. But I hired a couple of them nonetheless. Of course, there are other things that one has to bear in mind. So, for example, a woman with children is not going to be able to necessarily work a 12-hour shift in your company. But I think that everybody has a role to play in business organizations. And it's about understanding what your organization needs, understanding the individual needs as well, and just trying to marry those two together to create a synergy where it can work for the company and work for the individual as well. So not just for me, one of the key things that has jumped out at me is not just saying no because oh it's not ideal that she's going to have to take time off work, whatever, but seeing the areas in the organization where somebody with those specific needs can function and thrive.
Exactly, exactly. I love that. Creating that opportunity, making that space, giving them that space to have both, to have it all, if possible, because this is not a given. In very many communities, it's one or the other. You're either a wife and that's it, or the opportunities are not there. So thank you so much for taking that leap of faith with those women. And we hope that we want more investors so we can get more women, give them opportunities. You've traveled the world. What is that one common mistake you see African entrepreneurs make over and over? I have zillions of them, but uh, I'm listening.
Right. I don't know that I can speak for African entrepreneurs generally, and I would say that entrepreneurs generally kind of have the same challenges and sort of toe the same path in a sense. So the one thing that I would say as I was thinking about this is actually a double-edged sword. So it's kind of two faces of the same coin. And
Okay.
one face is planning. I think that, just by virtue of being entrepreneurs, you're driven by passion, right? For the most part at the beginning, right? So it is passion that makes you take on this crazy, enormous, impossible task and say, I'm going to create an airplane that can fly in the air and be suspended and defy all the, sort of laws of gravity, or I'm going to create a telephone, or I'm going to create a factory in Nigeria. It's passion, it's a huge, deep belief in your ability to create, right? And so I think that a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we just have the passion, we get excited, and we go for it, and we don't plan adequately. So, for example, manufacturing, as I said earlier, it's a very, very process driven enterprise. And so it involves really understanding a lot of micro steps, understanding the entire supply chain from end to end. What does the whole sort of process look like? Where are the potential risks? How do I mitigate those risks? Do you understand? Like, who do I
Yes.
need to perform all of these different tasks? And so I
Yes.
think, if we don't spend enough time really thinking about and learning, because a lot of times, like, what you're passionate about as an entrepreneur is often an area in which you have zero experience a
Yeah.
lot, a
Yeah.
lot of times. So, for
Yeah.
example, people often ask me, how did you end up from law to running a factory, not even in Lagos, not even in the big city in Nigeria. This is like in a sort of, semi-urban area in Ogun State. Like, how did that whole process happen? It's passion, it's vision, it's, what I saw that could become the possibilities. And so the point is, oftentimes, you have or you start a business or you have an idea for a business not in your core area of expertise. And so you have to learn, you have to take the time out to become a master in that area. So again, so planning. But like I said, the flip side of that is over planning and analysis paralysis, as they
Yeah.
say. You
Yeah.
over plan, you create this whole elaborate 50-page business plan. You go for all the conferences, you get all the business mentors, do all of these things, but you don't move. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
think it's really striking that balance between being prepared but knowing when to just take a leap of faith, because you're never going to know everything. It's just about having an attitude of continuous learning, right?
Yeah.
And being
Yeah.
committed to constantly learning, improving your craft, and going on from this. That's the one thing that I would know that I'd say.
Great, great, great point. I mean, you nailed it down. That's really amazing. The planning side, I think we are really lacking behind. And in addition to that, I'd like to add one thing: credibility.
Mm,
Credibility. We are not credible enough. And this is where the mistrust is coming from. You know, this 419 business, trying to get it all, trying to be greedy, trying to, you put yourself out there and you don't deliver. If we do not work on this, this is the opportunity for us. This COVID-19 sets the stage for us. Everybody is equal here. Be you European, be you African, be you Asian. If you're online, your credibility matters. You have to deliver. So please, please, we really have to work on this. There is no way out. How can I trust you? Just like now we're talking of investors. The people are there, they're willing to invest, but they don't just trust. And when you say Nigeria, people would think like, you know, if there is no trust, how do we need people? How do we expect that continent to grow, to evolve? This has got to change. I see the change. I see people really doing great work, people like you that we can trust. But that's just like 1% of the entire continent. How do we fight this?
Well, like since I've been in Nigeria, to be honest, I would say that the proportion of the population or of business people who I would term as untrustworthy or lacking credibility is actually not as huge as one would think. But as in the story of the bad egg that sort of
Yeah,
spoils everything, you
yeah,
have a handful of people who are who sort of are not credible, who don't deliver, and they give everybody else a bad name,
yeah.
right? The other thing as well that I've learned is the fact that sometimes the perceived lack of credibility is not for disingenuous reasons like crime or criminality. Sometimes it's just entrepreneurs just biting off much more than they can chew. So
Yes,
they actually
yes,
can deliver. They
yes.
actually, have the business ethos and they have the business principles to, to deliver. They are actually not trying to steal your money or to run away. They're just trying to find their way as entrepreneurs. And sometimes it can be quite overwhelming. And so that sort of lack of delivery that comes across as lacking credibility is just somebody just not being able to cope, which is not an excuse, right? Because again, that also goes back to the planning and to the processes and understanding what you need to be able to, to deliver what you're saying that you can deliver. But I think, I've also learned about that differentiation as well. Not everybody's a criminal. Some are just like drowning in work. But again, that is also part of the business discipline that we all have to inculcate and imbibe. It's about doing what we say we'll do when we say we'll do it.
I really pray from your mouth to God's ears that things really change. I really, really hope that it's not that they do not mean harm and that they're just doing their best to, you know, and then they just fail. But deep down me, there is this truth and credibility that doesn't sit, you know. And we have to go beyond this mindset of trying to, you know, take from other people without giving what we promised. We really have to deliver. We have to go deep because you don't you won't survive if you have this reputation. You won't survive, and this is what is killing the continent. We have to work on this, really. So, what's that one wish you secretly hold for your African women?
Hmm. Wow. I would say that that we just take up space in the world, take up space in the continent. I truly believe that everybody has a unique calling, everybody has a
Yeah,
unique assignment, right? And I think that for so long, a lot of us have sort of cowered and not wanted to, because sometimes when you're bold in asserting what you're about, people label you aggressive, and we've sort of shied away from those sorts of labels. And so I think that what I would really wish for is that we just, take up space, take up our own, because I believe that we all have our own sort of, small territory that we're to occupy in this world, be it in the sector of health or in fashion or in, industry or in whatever, or in finance. I think that we just really need to sort of stand up and occupy space in that area, become sort of, take mastery over
yes,
that area and
yes.
own that space and not be shy, not shrink, not feel like you're being too much or you're doing the most, and not be afraid to desire all of the things that you desire, right? Because sometimes they'll say, oh, isn't that too much? Like, why do you want all these things? Why can't you just stay in one place and just, be happy to, but no, like I want more and I'm not going to feel bad for wanting more. I'm going to work hard to get that more that I desire. And that more is not necessarily financial more, it's just more out of life, more
Yes.
fulfillment,
Yes. Yes.
more, just more grace, more understanding that you're thriving
Yeah.
as a human being. So,
Exactly.
yes, sure, that we would take up more space is what I would hope.
Yeah, great, great. I agree with you. More space, because the world is waiting, and very few people are showing up.
Right.
Very few people. If you go to any conference, you see very few African women. Okay, there are explanations to that, but if we had shifted enough, we would also be exposed to more and we would get more. So, and for your continent, what
Mm.
one wish do you hold in your heart for the continent of Africa?
Right. I really want to see a rebranded Africa. I think that we have, we've had. I wouldn't use the word suffered because that sort of connotes a kind of victimhood. So not really suffered, but I think that we have had
Our
we've not
share.
had we've not had a great image for for many years for various reasons. One, due to like 419 issues that you mentioned before, different crises that we've suffered through and all of that. But again, I've learned that a lot of times the what the media portrays for all of us to consume is really not the full story of what's going on.
Yes.
And so I would
Yes.
really want us to take hold of our own narrative, tell
Yeah.
our own stories in a way that makes sense for us. I want us to really understand our history, understand where we've come from, be proud of that, and really project into the future the Africa that we want to see and the Africans that we want to be. So for me, brand image is huge for us.
And that begins with you. You are
Indeed.
the future. Our hope is that you keep shining your light. Our hope that is that you don't give up, because you've started well. You've started it.
Thank
You're credible. You are trustworthy. We pray for you that you have the strength, that you have the clarity that's necessary as you move forward with your business.
thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Let's keep in touch. Let's see how this donation thing goes. If I
Sure.
hear if I hear of anything, if anybody contacts me for a donation, I will let you know. Please do
Sure.
let us know as well if you got anything, any donation because of AWIF, and
Sure.
maybe we should do a challenge to top it up. you know,
Yeah.
so because we need to uplift that continent, we need to do something. We cannot just sit here and think it's okay for other people to help. They have their own issues, and this dependency that we have on others should kind of stop. We have
Right.
what it takes. We should respect ourselves enough to solve our own problems. So thank you so much for your time, and we will continue this discussion.
Thank you.
It was lovely having you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thanks everyone for joining in.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So yeah, here we go, Awifians. Another opportunities for anyone who is willing to invest. Another opportunity for anyone who is willing to donate. You have the contact details. This is your time to do something. This is your time to be visible. The world needs you. You need yourself as a human being. You need to show up. We need to be credible because people are counting on us. People are counting on us. Don't let us down. Don't let you down. It was a pleasure spending these few minutes with you. Do take care of yourself, and I'll be with you again tomorrow with another lady from Nigeria. So, visibility, whole week. I hope you found some value. Thank you. Thank you so much for staying with me. And please do not forget that you are the star that makes the difference. You watching right now. Take care. Bye bye.